The world thought sanctions would cripple Russia, but one country changed the game: India. At a time when Western powers expected global unity, India charted its own course. It bought discounted Russian oil, refined it, and shipped products across the globe, including to the very nations sanctioning Moscow. To Washington, this was betrayal. To New Delhi, it was strategy. Arnold Schwarzenegger reveals why this oil trade is more than economics. It's power, leverage, and defiance. Tonight, we uncover how India's oil policy is fueling Russia's war machine and setting back U.S. sanctions, reshaping global geopolitics in the process. The United States believed that by imposing sweeping sanctions, it could isolate Russia and choke off its economy. Washington expected its allies and partners to follow without question, but India saw an opportunity where others saw only risk. As the West turned away from Moscow, India stepped in and became one of Russia's largest oil customers. Tankers carrying discounted crude began arriving at Indian ports, and suddenly the sanctions no longer looked so effective. What made this move even shocking to the U.S. was India's creativity. The crude oil purchased from Russia wasn't just consumed domestically, it was refined in India's massive oil facilities, turned into fuel products, and then exported worldwide, even to countries enforcing sanctions. This clever loophole allowed India to strengthen its energy security, boost exports, and keep Russia's oil money flowing. For the U.S., it was a nightmare. Washington realized that India had not just bypassed their sanctions, it had rewritten the rules of global trade. And the message was clear: India would act in its own interests, not at America's command. Russia was supposed to be financially cornered, but India's oil policy turned that prediction upside down. With every shipment of discounted crude, Moscow's war chest stayed full. Billions of dollars continued flowing into Russia's economy, blunting the effect of Western sanctions and keeping its military machine alive. What looked like economic strangulation on paper became survival in practice, all thanks to India's relentless buying. For India, the gains were enormous. By importing cheap Russian oil, New Delhi reduced its energy costs dramatically, bringing relief to its industries and households. At the same time, Indian refineries transformed this crude into diesel, jet fuel, and gasoline, which were then exported to global markets at a premium. Ironically, some of those products even ended up in Europe and the United States, the very nations trying to punish Moscow. The loophole was both legal and brilliant, making India one of the biggest winners in this global standoff. In Washington, frustration boiled. American policymakers criticized India's trade as undermining sanctions, but behind closed doors, they admitted their options were limited. India is too big to be pressured like a smaller nation, and too important as a strategic partner against China. Punishing New Delhi risked alienating an ally they desperately need. So while U.S. officials voiced displeasure, they quietly tolerated the very actions they condemned. Arnold's voice cuts in sharply. This is not disobedience, it is independence. India is telling the world that it will not dance to Washington's tune, and the United States knows it cannot afford to lose India. Beyond the numbers and the oil tankers, the deeper story is about power. India has mastered the art of balancing between two rival giants, Russia and the United States, without being dominated by either. On one side, Moscow remains a trusted defense supplier and energy partner. On the other, Washington is a crucial ally for technology, investment, and the Indo-Pacific strategy against China. Most countries would crumble under the pressure of choosing sides, but India refuses to bow, proving that it can engage with both while serving only its national interest. This defiance sends a message to the world. The age when Washington dictated terms is fading. India's stance shows that global politics is no longer unipolar. A new order is emerging, one where nations like India can bend the rules, break expectations, and carve their own path without fear of punishment. The oil trade is not just about barrels and dollars, it's about sovereignty. For the U.S., this is a humbling lesson. Despite its sanctions regime, it cannot stop India. Despite its anger, it cannot punish India. And despite its frustration, it still needs India more than India needs America. The irony is striking. Arnold's voice deepens with finality. This is the future of geopolitics. Not control, not dominance, but independence. India's oil policy is not weakness, it is strategy. It fuels Russia, yes, but more importantly, it fuels India's rise as a power that no one can control. The story of India's oil policy is more than trade. It is about the courage to chart an independent course in a world where superpowers demand obedience. By buying Russian oil and outmaneuvering sanctions, India has shown that sovereignty is not negotiable. It has shown that national interest will always outweigh foreign pressure. And it has shown that even the might of the United States cannot dictate terms to a rising power. Russia was supposed to be financially cornered, but India's oil policy turned that prediction upside down. It's about the courage to chart an independent course in a world where superpowers demand obedience. By buying Russian oil and outmaneuvering sanctions, India has shown that sovereignty is not negotiable. It has shown that national interest will always outweigh foreign pressure, and it has shown that even the might of the United States cannot dictate terms to a rising power.